Hello everyone and welcome to this live battle between the Dark Elves and the High Elves. In this game, guys, I'm going to be using Malekith the Witch King, and he's going to be riding his Black Dragon. And on top of that, I'm going to be trying out the Khanate Assassin. So he does have two abilities I've actually never used. One of them is like a cone ability, it would appear, very similar to Tyrion's Sunfang. Granted, I haven't seen the damage scaling on it. And the other one is actually like a net. So I'm hoping that if Tyrion's getting chased by a bunch of phoenixes or anything else like that, he can net them and also apply his missile fire. So he does have, like, I think a hand crossbow that does pretty good DPS against lightly armored targets. So I want to see how he does, and hopefully it's good. He does also have the Assassin's Trophy, so it's very similar to what Queek Headtaker has, the debuff on enemy lords, lowering melee attack and melee defense, but the difference being that I think it lowers it by a lower margin. I don't think it's quite as good as Queek, which makes sense. So yeah, let's get our front line going. We do have Bleak Swords who are going to be kind of saturated with the Executioners. I mean, the Bleak Swords are basically just fillers, because again, we do have some expensive units. I actually decided to bring the War HYDRA for you guys. So if we can avoid Archer Fire, this thing's definitely going to be very good. It has great armor-piercing values, and its breath attack, if you can get like an enemy troop lined up sideways, will just massacre enemy units. It's very powerful. So we're going to put him in the front for now. And, excuse me, been a long day, yawning. But yes, we do have the Khanate Assassin, so let's actually look at the abilities while we're kind of hanging out right here. So he does have the Assassin's Trophy. He does have the Dark Venom, which gives him a pretty big damage buff, but the Black Dragon Egg is the one I'm looking at here. And then the other one is the Web of Shadows. So apparently it actually does damage versus a single target, if I'm not mistaken. So he's got a pretty decent little kind of Fate of Unit type ability here. Then he also does have a cone ability. So he has utility against, blobs as well as enemy lords. So we're just going to put him back here for now. We're going to put this Dark Rider and Vanguard up here in the hills. Yeah, they are hidden. That's good. That's good. Good, Anakin, good. Then we're going to get the Dark Shards, put them with the main army. And against the High Elves, I definitely think it's worth bringing Shield, because their archers can outclass your Dark Shards in a straight duelist type situation, because the Dark Shards only have like 125 range. So Malekith's in group 2. He did start with pretty low winds magic, but I do have like two really powerful breath attacks here. I have the Hydra as well as Malekith, so I'm hoping that, the little double trouble will be good. So let's get this show on the road. So he started really close. We're just going to actually fly Malekith right over there, get ready to start breathing. And the Hydra, we're also going to just go breathe some fire on these Swordmasters of Hoeth. On that same note, let's bring these guys up and around, and the Hydra, let's put them in group 4 so we can kind of control them separately. But we forgot to toggle lock our group. Got to make sure to do that, so they march in formation. So Malekith, we're going to get sideways and breathe on these Swordmasters, because I think he has like 3 groups of them. So let's do a little bit of side strafing here, see if we can get a charge on these guys, and let's see how this Hydra does. I know head on it's not quite as effective, but I'm optimistic it'll still do some pretty good work. So we have the Dragon Breath right here from the Black Dragon, and the Hydra Breath right in the middle. Okay, that's not bad. Oh, that one from Malekith was really good, because again, it was kind of on the sides there. And the Dark Riders are going to be coming in. We do have this cone ability, so I want to do as much damage as I can to these Swordmasters. Oh, I'm a little bit out of range, so I definitely want to wait on that. But let's get the Hydra engaged here, these guys here, these guys here, and these guys here. And the Dark Riders did get into the back, so my opponent spent a ton on his front line, which is going to be, pretty good for me. So we'll target the Swordmasters of Hoeth. Malekith's just going to try and find a home amongst all this chaos here, and let's get that nice little blob. Oh, that might not be good. Oh, that just massacred our own. I did see that, guys, so I'm aware of the failure. So let's go ahead and jump on Tyrion right here with Malekith and use Soul Stealer, which is going to be quite strong. We do have the Khanate Assassin, so I think we get him in here. We also use the trophy heads. I don't know the icons yet. I'm still trying to learn those. We can actually debuff. Yeah, let's debuff him right here. So that's going to give him some pretty big debuff stats. And on top of that, we do have the net. So the net is also, okay, so the net is like an area effect ability. So, okay, so now I know. So let's start shooting at this mage with life. In the back, let's push the archers through and check on the Hydra. How's he doing? Is he having a good time? Yeah, he's fighting those Swordmasters pretty efficiently. And it looks like our Executioners did pretty well for us on the far side. We're getting some decent little focus fire on the mage over there. I don't know if it's the most prudent target, but let's actually get him in melee against Tyrion. So, man, Malekith and his goon squad in the middle were really able to do a ton of damage. So let's go ahead and use the Power of Darkness on these guys here. And it's probably a little bit inefficient to shoot at that mage, so maybe we start shooting over here at these white lines who are causing some problems. Good, so the Executioners are kind of free. I think we just kind of send him to collapse here. I'm not terribly concerned about his archers since they are a little bit inundated back here. But man, that Hydra Fire did really good, so let's pull him back right now. We'll get Malekith back down here. So get down here, bad boy. And we'll shoot at these white lines of trace over here with some of this fire. And then we also do have a little something lined up for these guys. So let's get this Hydra Breath and breathe it right here on these white lines of trace, and hopefully that'll do some pretty good work. Looks like the High Elf forces are kind of collapsing a little bit here, and let's get this guy down here. And the Khanate Assassin, I didn't even get a chance to use this yet, so let's try this out, so just to see what it looks like. So he's casting it 1, 2, 3, and so it's like, okay, so it's like a little like poison cone ability. That could actually be really good. I probably should have used it at the beginning, but this is my first time ever touching those abilities, so I didn't really have kind of a knowledge of their aptitude or what they're effective at. So the net ability appears to be like an AoE. That's really only going to work like around him. So you kind of run him into melee. If enemies trying to escape or waddle away from you and your lords who are going after him, you can pop that and probably get some pretty good value for yourself. So guys, we're actually going to make this a double cast. So it's been taking a little bit of time for me to actually find games on ladder. It's been taking like 4 to 5 minutes sometimes. So I'm actually just going to, cut it right now and jump right into the second game. So guys, stay tuned. Thanks again, and here we go. Hello everyone, and welcome to the showdown between the Lizard People, led by Krok-Gar, and the Dark Elves, who are going to be helmed by Malekith the Witch King. So let's jump right into this game, guys, and take a look at some of the army compositions. So over here in Vanguard, I actually do have 3 groups of these chameleon skinks, and these guys are the ultimate trolls. Firstly, these bad boys do have 48 movement speed, and I don't think any of the Dark Elf infantry are fast enough to catch them. If we look at the Black Guard over here, who are currently getting blasted by my laser lizard up on the hill, he's definitely quite proud up there, but he's doing some good work on these Black Guard. But they're very slow is the point I'm trying to make. They have 31 speed, and then the Black Guard Corsairs, which are known for being pretty quick, only have 40 speed compared to these chameleons. And also something else about these guys is they do shoot while moving, so you can see they're turning around, and I love that animation. So they're actually turning and shooting these Black Guard and Nogrond as they run away, so you can kind of just be like a little pest, just like circle up and around the flanks and shoot them. And even if they bring Witch Elves who are very lightly armored, you can pick them off, or if you want, you could sneak these guys up and around the flank and go after Dark Shards. And you're probably thinking, oh, these are skirmishers, they have no armor, they're pretty much just going to get annihilated by missile fire. Well, they're not, because they have Chameleon, so that gives them 40% resistance against missiles, which is super good. So you're facing Dark Shards or High Elves or anyone like that, it's still not advisable to let them take fire, but they're going to be very durable if they do. So definitely one of, if not my favorite unit on the Lizardmen roster. So I do have 3 of those guys skirmishing over there. For my main core, I got 2 groups of the skink cohorts to pressure the flanks with their high movement speed, 3 groups of Saurus warriors who are pretty much your, I would hesitate to call them rank and file because they're very strong. These guys have 52 weapon strength, yeah, 52 if I'm not mistaken. But even though they're not inherently an armor-piercing unit, their damage is so high that they still do have 18 armor-piercing damage. So they still can get in there and do some work against like Black Guard Corsairs, who only have 80. Granted, they will struggle a little bit against units like the Black Guard and Nogrond, who have over 100. So I'm deciding to try something a little bit new. I know a lot of you guys wanted to see these guys, so we're going to truly, for once, crack open a cold one with some Feral Cold Ones. So we have 2 groups of these guys. I'm going to use them kind of like squig herds, and they're pretty much the same thing if you really look at them. They're a very cheap feral unit who can, get taken down very easily, but they do have 90 armor, so I think that's quite a bit more than squigs. I actually can't remember. It's been so long since I played any of the old world factions, but I'm going to use these guys in the front. I'm just going to go after the Black Guard Corsairs, and even though they're pretty much going to rampage immediately, I'm hoping that they can do some good AP damage to the 80 armor of those Corsairs. I do have Big Daddy Krok-Gar. He's definitely MVP here. He's very, very tough and durable. 100 armor, extremely mobile, has self-healing with cold blood, and Hand of the Gods does tons of damage. So I hope this game, I think I got a really good blast on Malekith. I can't remember, but if I did, hopefully you guys get a chance to see it, but it's an excellent dueling ability. I do like Jabba the Hutt in this matchup as well, but I like Krok-Gar quite a bit for like going after Malekith and dealing with the Black Dragon that he usually rides on, but Malekith is actually on foot, so it should be fun. I also do have some Cold One Spear Riders in the back, 2 groups of those. I have a Healing Crystal here, which I'm not even going to try and say, and a Laser Lizard. So for my opponent, he has a whole front line of Corsairs and Black Guard and Nogrond, and look at them just getting dragged into the mud by these skinks. Like, they've already killed like 10 or 15 of these guys. They're just being left here. I mean, you're just imagine this. You're like the most elite unit of like Nogrond, the Dark Elves, just this super brutal, like violent race, and you're just being taken out by these little like troll lizards that have like dead frogs on their head and, blow darts, and man, what a way to go. So my Laser Lizard up here is perching. He's got Malekith, Black Guard Corsairs, and aside from that, all he has are these Cold One Riders. So pretty decent anti-lizard army. It's very focused on killing dinosaurs. He does have a ton of these Cold One Riders and anti-large in the Black Guard, so let's see how it pans out for him. So in the front, we're going to have our first engagement between these Saurus warriors and these Corsairs. You can also see that Malekith gets a very good blast on some of my guys over there, so definitely some wild stuff going on. So it would appear that there is an ability going down. It must be the Doom Bolt from Malekith, so if we look up in the sky, let's see if we can find it. That's a long cast, so yeah. You see that in the sky, but it's actually heat-seeking, so then it comes and hits Krok-Gar, but I don't think he overcasted it. So that ability actually does a ton of damage if you overcast it, but if you do not, it doesn't do very well against heavily armored units. So unfortunately for my poor little chameleon skinks out here, he does have some Cold One Knights perching on the corner, but these guys are still getting trolled, so they're kind of being held in place by these skinks, and halberds are very inefficient at killing fodder, and these guys are also just shooting and poisoning them, which is pretty great. Look at them run in and shoot, it's so epic. Over here, these skinks are unfortunately probably going to get run down by these Cold Ones in just a moment, but the main battle is very, very wild. You can see Krok-Gar was taking a little bit of focus from these halberds as well as from Malekith, so I decided to pull him back and have him help out against these Cold Ones. So a little bit of a dino on dino violence, but you know what? He's ready to party. And I actually never noticed, but he does actually, I think that is the Hand of the Gods. So that thing that Krok-Gar has on his wrist, I think that's actually like the item that he uses. So I do pop the Sacred Spawning of Zodal, which is going to give him, ward save and vigor. So if you guys are playing Lizardmen and you are using Krok-Gar, it's very important throughout the course of the battle, pop this every chance you get. It's very, very important. It pretty much is going to ensure that when everyone else is exhausted, Krok-Gar might be like tired or, somewhere near that tier of exhaustion. So In the back, the Cold One Riders have gotten in here, but I do have some Spear Riders of my own who are kind of fighting them, and I wonder who's better in a straight fight. I'd love to do like a stat-to-stat comparison. So it looks like the Cold One Knights have a little bit more melee attack compared to mine. I wonder what the trade-off. Yeah, they seem to just have better stats. I'd have to look at that. Unfortunately, my poor Bastiladon right here is getting targeted by all these Cold One Knights, but I do have Krokar back here, and he's really just going to put a beating on this guy. So, I mean, he has anti-large and just massive damage, so you can see he's tearing into these guys. Looks like Malekith going for another Doom Bolt on Krokar. That one did a little bit of damage, but I don't know if it's the best use. The front line is just a wild cockfight in here. You can see my Saurus Warriors are kind of just battling in the pits with these Blackguarded Nagaron. And my crystal right here, my Bastiladon, okay, I'll say it just for you guys, the Revivification Crystal. That was pretty good. I'm getting there, I'm training. But I accidentally charged it in a little bit too aggressively, and it did take a lot of damage from these Black Guards, so I really wanted to make sure to pull that out before it, essentially routed off the battlefield. It's a very important tool, providing you with 10 charges of healing, which is pretty crazy. So the fight is definitely getting pretty wild. If we take an overarching look at things, the bounce power is very even. You can see over here my Chameleon Skinks are shooting down these Blackguard and Auguron and just dragging them into the mud. So these skink cohorts and this group of Chameleon Skinks, they pretty much just killed these guys by themselves, which is pretty cool. In the middle, I do have my Saurus Warriors who are kind of fighting these Blackguard and Auguron who do have stand your ground. I also do have my Cold One Spear Rider, so I was able to fend off all of his guys in the back. So basically, I had these Chameleon Skinks in the back fighting, and what's so cool about these guys is they also have poison melee attack. So his Cav came and engaged on them, my Skinks poisoned them, then my Cold Ones came in with a Krokar and were able to really win that fight heavily because they were poisoned. So over here, my one group of skink cohorts, just the true patriots of the Lizardmen, are holding back a Blackheart Corsair and 2 Blackguarded Nagaron, so definitely getting some big value. You can see Krokar here is going to be popping his, I forget what that's called, what is the one that, I know with the Ratmen, it's actually Verminous Valor, but with Krokar, let's actually pause it or else it's going to bother me for the rest of this commentary. So it is called I think it's the Swiftness of Itzel, yeah, that's what it's called. So he pops that, does a nice little AoE knockback, and it looks like he is tail whipping Malekith, took out about 20% of his HP right there, so Malekith is, a strong duelist in his own right, but Krokar is definitely the alpha here. I mean, he's just going to annihilate the Witch King without his dragon. So, yeah, you can see he's taking a ton of damage here. But still, there's some very healthy groups of these Blackguard and Auguron right here who are in pretty good shape, just kind of holding the middle, and that's going to be tough for me to crack. But thankfully, I do have numbers. So I have these Skinks, I have these Saurus Warriors who are still fighting. And it looks like some of these Feral Cold Ones are still in here kind of snapping on these guys, doing some okay work. So I'm actually pretty excited to see how they do after the game and see if they, how many kills they got. What would be a really interesting metric to see for multiplayer commentary is like how much damage things did. I think that'd be really cool. Like in League of Legends and a lot of other games, you can like look at how much damage something did or an entity did at the end of a battle. And I think that gives you a really good kind of a benchmark for how well they perform. In the back, you can see my Skink Chief, unfortunately, is routing off, so Malekith actually casts Doom Bolt on him, and that's a really good target, because he only has 30 armor, and Doom Bolt will probably take out like 30% of his HP, so he was able to get rid of my Lore of Heavens. Forgot to mention that I was using Lore of Heavens this game, so. Over here, you can see that Krokar has kind of isolated Malekith. He does also have some Saurus Warriors kind of, beating on this drum right here. And Malekith only has 90 armor, so the Saurus Warriors should be able to kind of get through that. And you can see he's broken right there. So that's pretty much going to be all she wrote. It looks like the Blackguard and everyone else are, wavering or getting ready to, rout off the battlefield due to army losses. So well played to my opponent. I definitely think the MVPs in that match were the Skinks. The skirmishers on the flank, they just did so much work. Like, number one, they were able to just pepper down those Blackguard and Auguron, and by the time the fighting started, that one group was super low. They were at like 40%. And then on top of that, when they ran back to the back line, they were able to apply poison to some of his cav. The 3 groups of Cold One Knights who came in, they got poisoned and kind of like mucked up by these Skinks. And from there, the Cold One Knights who are, meant for anti-large and anti-cav, were fighting these little rats over here. Well, they're not rats. I guess they're technically are rats in the game now, so we need to be like more appropriate. But they're fighting these little trolls and getting poisoned. And then my one group of Cold One Spear Riders in conjunction with Krokar were pretty much able to solo like all 3 of these guys, which is really powerful. So I definitely like these guys a lot in most matchups. I'm trying to think of a matchup in which I wouldn't like them. Against High Elves, they're not as good because you don't have as, I guess most of the White Lines of Trace have 90 armor. I'd have to theory craft that a little bit, but honestly, I like them in most builds. Against High Elves, they can deal with Phoenixes. Against the Ratmen, I might not bring them against the Ratmen. I don't know. It's hard to say because I feel like the Gutter Runners or some of those kind of skirmishers or Night Runners, is that what they're called? They would be pretty good at kind of chasing these guys down. So that'd be a little bit scary, but Lore of Heavens was good. I didn't get a chance to really show you guys, but I was using the Comet of Cassandora, which did huge damage to one of these Blackguard earlier in the battle. On top of that, I did have Harmonic Convergence, which I was able to use, and definitely had some fun stuff going on. The Feral Cold Ones, very cheap. They were able to crack open a few. It looks like 15 cracked open for this one and 17 for this bad boy. For the cost, it's not bad, and hopefully they did some good HP damage. That's kind of what I was really looking for there. So, anyways, very well played to my opponent, TC. Look forward to seeing you get on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this Lizardmen cast. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.